against her. But if Scarlett is playing to her max potential, and we can say that like 100%, then I would call her as the champion of Americas. That's just always the thing that's in question. They got map 1 finally underway, starting on Golden Aurora. In the top left, they do have the red Protoss. Teamless currently, he is Astrea.
In the bottom right, I'm a blue Zerg from the Shopify Rebellion. This is Scarlet. Scarlet was on a heck of a streak in this event since a map lost to MCann. She'd won 13 maps in a row. Roddy was counting the maps she'd run in a row repeatedly until she then got 3-0'd on the reverse sweep by Trigger. She was up 2-0, then lost 3 in a row to Trigger. And yeah, that series obviously took a quick turn around, and we'll see if Astrea kind of brings any of the aggression that Trigger brought, because it's really Trigger's aggression that really caught Scarlet off guard and had her in trouble. A couple of blink timers especially had her in a lot of trouble throughout that series. Glaives obviously put her in a bit of trouble too, so yeah, that aggression is what had Scarlet kind of turning into this lower bracket finals player. As Astrea obviously had to fight his way through the lower bracket from round 1 after he lost a future in that round 1, but he got revenge yesterday as that probe comes across the map.
Yeah, there's some data to look at for Astrea, and I think even though all 3 of our top competitors in the Americas, or typical top 3 anyway, do have unique styles, they are uniquely them, I would say that it kind of is like, it's uniquely them all together in the Americas region, you know what I mean? Like, they still obviously would know each other enough and would still be able to replicate to a certain degree each other's styles and know each other, I guess, that Astrea could copy whatever Trigger did and say, like, well, that's going to work. Scarlet has a weakness to it. On the other hand, of course, Scarlet can say, well, I messed up that time, but I'm certainly not going to mess up in a similar way against Astrea. So I don't know if the best choice is to, copy what worked or just figure that's not going to work out exactly as planned this time around. But no matter what anyone is thinking between these 3 players, we know that they don't even always know what's going to happen. You don't have any one of these players being a Showtime, who still is the go-to example of someone who maybe is very consistently macro heavy, maybe not PvP so much, but the other matchups. And so you expect in a 5-series game, 3 of them are Stargates into Third Nexus, into Blink +1. It's pretty basic, but I don't know. With Astrea, anything can happen. With Scarlet, anything can happen. We already have Astrea going for kind of that. I like to say that Hero does this, but I don't know if it's Hero's thing. But the pylon on the wall, which could be vulnerable against Ling Run, all-ins, but doesn't seem to care. Doesn't need that third structure to block it out. And then a Void Ray comes out first. So little bits of differences to open up this PvZ.
Astrea's just too freaking cool to care about pylon walls, man. He's just like, you know what?
Apparently.
Sunglasses on, playing the game, chilling. He doesn't care if there's a pylon in his wall. You're gonna Bane Burst me? I'll just defend it. No problem. Void Ray is fun. It's definitely not something you see every day, but it's a good mix-up because it can come out. It can knock down an Overlord, knock down Vision. Very good for keeping those guessing, especially at the start of a series where you don't really know the feel of what Astrea is going to be doing. If the Void Ray pushes back the Overlord, Scarlet's going to really struggle to scout, and then aggressive follow-ups can be hard to kind of, notch onto. That's a very fast third base, so that's something the Void Ray can help you to protect. That third base could also lead into maybe you don't overly saturate it, and then maybe you do something aggressive, but I think it's so fast a third that that would be unlikely as the Void Ray moves out towards the center. Fortunate Twilight Council coming through from Astrea at the moment. That Warp Gate is about to finish.
And we certainly have had some Protoss prove that there's just so many builds in the Protoss book of BS. Hero did play so many series in which he was able to showcase or at least a slightly different build order in every single. It was like 14 games. He was like extended series, and he still was able to show a different build order. So you always got to be scared when this Void Ray pops up. I mean, there is a chance that a guy like Astrea could go for like a Fleet Beacon, 2 carries and they suddenly show up because you think it's going to be something else. But it is not. Despite the Void Ray opener, it goes into Twilight Council +1. Oracle, gets built after, so it can kind of look like more normalized, I suppose. And actually, there's going to be Charge Archon. Charge is on the way. Not too many Zealots have been produced, and we do have a handful of Lings. Getting into that third base, which
that's bad.
didn't really account for such an attack angle, I think.
Yeah, they're going to get in. Honestly, does not get on too many of the probes. A few probes actually run back across now. Stasis Ward is decent to catch a few drones as well. As the Lings could get rid of that Adept and then maybe have potential to continue on the front. A gateway going to be exposed. We want to get this pylon, knock down the power to these two gateways is a big deal as well. That's going to be the Lings backing away now. Scarlet, obviously, she made a lot of Lings to do this, but she definitely found success from it.
Yeah, so she made in total like 32 Lings and then killed a pylon, 4 probes, and 2 Adepts. I think there is, especially with the stasis traps actually doing some damage here. I could see, like, you know, either race kind of, you know, saying that it's worse for them, I suppose, but it definitely wasn't the snowball that might have happened, for instance, if that natural had actually been broken. I think that's when you just guarantee Scarlet did enough damage. But as it is, we have more droning coming through, and Astrea is going into that, I was saying, charge Archon. Templar Archives actually hasn't been put down yet, but that is my assumption. Be interesting if you blink into, or charge into blink and then just played Mass Gateway. I mean, I'm actually kind of feeling it because he only has 2 gases still, so that must be what it is.
I'll just drop the double robo.
Is it?
I mean, still very gateway heavy, I guess. And then
yes.
Some walls behind that. I mean, you said kind of like charge blink, but maybe we just cancel the blink and we just play charge into Immortals. These elves are going to show up into Queens and Roaches that are well positioned. The Queens tank, they transfuse each other up. The Roaches deal the damage from behind. As long as you're not getting your Roach counter cut down, this seems pretty okay for you. And a little worrying for Astrea that the only units on the map he has are Zealots, because that does feel like it opens the door to Scarlet maybe having some potential to actually go across the map and do some attacking. So, yeah, a little bit worried. But obviously with the Robos finishing, we should have access towards Immortals. So we are indeed going to go Blink as well. 2 gases can take you a long, long way if all you've built thus far is Zealots.
Yeah. You would expect at least 2 more gases eventually, but he knows what he's doing. So that Zealot attack, that could have been a lot more worrisome if Scarlet had tried to go up to 75 or the 80 drone she's at now, right off the bat. She did get a handful of Roaches though, tucked in a corner. Zealot's really not a big deal at that point. And then I guess because she was inevitably going to go to 83 drones apparently, we don't have the attack before the Immortals, because that's totally with you. If it's only charge lots, not only was there not that many charge lots, it also comes down to they can't get that surround, they can't chase. It gets really weird. Although the Roaches don't have Roach speed yet, so maybe they could have gotten us around. But obviously, Immortals coming in, making me feel a lot more comfortable in case Scarlet is revving up for an attack. Now, she is adding on Hydras, which is kind of the next concern, because you talk about that micro. It's going to get even worse with the Hydras, microing, particularly if they're going to be on creep, which is starting to get over to the halfway point. Not too bad, but it's clearly where Scarlet is headed. And then I'm worried about Astrea's lack of splash, because that's the end of the day what's going to be the composition here. Charge, Immortal, Blink. That's 0 splash, not even an Archon with little tiny arms to help out there. Now getting Templar Archives as well as a Robotics Bay. Now getting all the gases up at once. 2 for like 7 minutes, and then just boom, suddenly all of them at 8. It's a different path, I suppose, to getting to ultimately a familiar composition. If Astrea get there fast enough, can he hold on against this mass Roach Hydra attack?
I feel like Astrea's style is not meant to do well against what Scarlet has right now. To me, she just has way too many units. You mentioned the lack of splash. That's a very real thing. Templar Archives is about to finish. We don't have that much gas to spend on Archons. There's a mass of Zealots running by the bottom left gold base, but Scarlet doesn't need that right now because she can give up the gold and crash through a base or 2 herself right here. And that's exactly what she's starting to do, taking out some gates. Still just sitting on this bottom side. I mean, starting to push into these Immortals. I almost feel like Scarlet is giving it too much respect. She's playing as though there's a bunch of sentries about to force field her army in half. That's not the case. I feel like she could have been on top of these Immortals and killing them. Instead, we just play a slower setup to try and deal with this. She's still just hanging back. Now going to move into the third base on the left side.
It's very possible that she's played against this style, and particularly against Astrea, and realized that she's been prone to over-attacking, but I'm with you, because that was mostly a Hydra Ravager army. If it was 16 Roaches against 4 Immortals and a Shield Battery, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I understand the Zerg's indecision, but well, she has busted through the third base, so it might have taken a little while longer, but she is finally on top of multiple bases after losing one of her own. She also cleans up the Zealots, so she won't have to be losing any more. And there we go. There's everything collapsing now, because it felt like it was going to be a collapse. Just took 30 extra seconds. But that is a 100 supply difference between the two now, and kind of a weird first game of the day.
You know, Roddy said it a lot yesterday. He's like, man, Astrea sometimes it's such a frustrating player to watch because he's so good, and yet he makes his life so difficult because he does things in such a weird manner. And this is such a good example of it, right? Like, you know, the Zealots into just mass immortal, and, well, you know, the idea of what he was ending up on is something we've seen day in and day out before. But no one really gets there in this way, and this is probably why, because you kind of just die to a mid-tier unit max. Maybe if this was like purely roaches and no hydras, then you're having a better time because the immortals obviously stack up better against the roaches. Else can hold lings off, but the introduction of the hydras against someone who just did not have any intention of building splash damage until way too late. Scarlett just hit in that timing window and took the advantage of it, and she takes a very convincing first game. The thing with Astrea, though, is you don't really look at game one and you're like, okay, well, this sets the tone for the series. Unlike a lot of players who kind of play like that shows what they're going to do all series long. Astrea is going to mix and match a whole bunch of different builds and strategies, I'm pretty sure of it, so it'll be very interesting to see how this game number 2 goes. Now, this is a super important matchup because for Americas, 2 players only receive the seed into Dallas, which is where you get to start in the winner's stage. You get to avoid that very difficult open bracket, which has the likes of potentially a Cyril in there, a lot of very good Koreans, and more. So this is actually a very important best of 5 because, yes, there's more prize money for winning out, but top 2 gets that winner's stage seed, and it's such a big deal for having a good event at Dallas.
Yep. A lot of pressure on the line here. I don't know if that's necessarily affecting anyone right now, but yeah, it doesn't feel so great for the first lost player. It's going to be Astrea after showing it looked like a questionable game. You know, it looked like okay, well, scratch our head and just kind of move on, but that is Astrea, so we're allowed to do that. And I also think that really gets to look so bad after that initial Zealot attack really doesn't do anything. I mean, as far as disrupting Scarlet, I suppose on a very technical level, it made her make army as opposed to drones, but she was kind of doing it in preparation anyway. It's like she anticipated it, and just by nipping that in the bud, there was no confusion or hesitation after. The more I think about it, the more that it just looked like a game that they had previously played in which Scarlet had gotten got by the build and had learned and then knew exactly what to do because she had thought about it and knew the reaction after she had properly defended. Let's see if that is the tone, a consistent theme across the best of 5, or if this guy has other tricks up his sleeve. In the top right, it is Astrea.
Bottom left, the blue Zerg from the Shopify Rebellion. We have ourselves Scarlet.
Yeah, just too much perhaps on the idea of Zealots overwhelming, because now I'm really thinking about it. I feel like we've seen very similar circumstances from Astrea in particular. I know I'm right now thinking of a PvP, which is totally wrong, but like 40 Zealots and Roddy losing his mind. But we've definitely seen some PvZs where that early Zealot attack, not with Archons, although sometimes there's also that Archon push, Anyways, it really throws off the Zerg. Just didn't do it that time. And now Astrea definitely showing that he, is anticipating Scarlet going for a gold base. Scarlet seems to have been planning on it. I mean, they both find out ways of intercepting that gold base or taking the gold base, and now Scarlet's just been denied it.
Yeah, there's going to be no gold, normal natural coming up, and away we go then as our gas finishes, and we'll see what the next steps of this will bring us. This probe gets into the main. We'll obviously keep an eye out for a little bit here, but there's not too much else for it to see. Just double checks everything else looks normal. I nibble at some mineral patches. Well, it actually has minerals already, right? So you actually can't even do the typical nibbling to kind of throw drones off their stacking. Yeah, this probe really has no use other than to kind of just go.
You know what I would really like, Wardy?
Tell me.
A Ling all-in.
Ling all-in?
Look at Astrea's wall. It's not only a pylon in the wall again, which we talked about, but that gateway has so much surface area. Not gonna happen though, apparently.
Could be really good, wouldn't it? The gateway is
like
so exposed.
I really feel like it would. But I feel like I've been saying this for so long for Hero, because Hero has been doing this pylon wall since the beginning of the last map pool. And I feel like I don't see that many Ling all-ins against them. Obviously, a Protoss will know the weakness of their wall and have some idea how to cover it in case it goes poorly. Because these are not mistakes. These are not like a whoopsie-daisy that we sometimes see from professionals. These are very much on purpose. They must have a backup plan. Still feels worth testing out. You know, I could see Scarlett winning this game however she does, and then for the final game, trying to end it really quickly and abuse this wall setup that Astrea has, depending what the next map is.
If he keeps walling like that, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, Scarlett's the player who will play aggressively. We saw a proxy hatching trigger yesterday, for example. So she is one to absolutely punish mistakes. And honestly, like you say, there's just not an optimal wall. There's a reason why not everyone does this, why we're even pointing it out in the first place. As Lings try for a probe. The micro is decent to save the probe, but it does cost you a little bit of mining time. So the Lings get in, a little bit of a kerfuffle caused. Ling's speed is about to be done from Scarlet, but it obviously alludes to the fact that this is not going to be anything too wild. And Astrea just on the way to the Void Ray once again, so just getting that straight up and running here into the Void Ray. And seems to be happy with this, you know, basically scouting denial in the early stages.
Yeah, I guess so. Pretty happy with it. It does have a kind of a more solid defense setup, but kind of not. Like, it really depends, right? The Void Ray is excellent against any type of roach play, for sure. But then we saw how it can struggle against something like a 30 Ling swell on that third. That's where the Oracle does the best job. And so many other Protoss are going to obviously go triple Oracle, first of all, and then leave one Oracle at all times, you know, back at home in case that Ling swell happens. But not Astrea. Dedicated to the Void Ray opener, perhaps only one Oracle. Different build, though, for sure. Twilight Council coming down way faster, no Forge. Additional gateways already on the way. It actually kind of looks really funky right now. In fact, Astrea shows that he already has 2 additional gateways on the way, which, I mean, isn't that abnormal, but the fact that he put them on the front lines is like, yeah, that wall is kind of scary. I don't like it. I'm gonna try and protect it. Where usually the whole idea, I feel like, is that you don't need another gateway to help wall the natural. Nitpicking aside, blink attack is on the way. All right, that is the really important thing. Blink attack on the way. Apparently Trigger able to do some significant damage, comeback potential with Blink in the last series Scarlet played versus him. And Astrea is going to try and get some of that magic here with some early Blink Stalker pressure. It's going to be a total of 5 gateways. No War Prism, no Proxy Gateway, but, you know, it can still get a jump on the Zerg player.
Little Oracle dropping down a Revelation there. Melee upgrade halfway done. Blink halfway done from Astrea. As we just have the Ling's going to show up. Going to see all the Stalkers. Again, this faster Blink, you kind of just know what's coming. And now Scarlet's aware. And we see her playing the melee upgrade. Honestly, pretty good against Blink Stalkers, and especially Blink Stalkers that only have like a single Oracle support in them, because a lot of the time the Stalkers' protection against Lings is going to be like the Oracles that zap down the Lings if they try and get a surround or wrap around. That doesn't really exist, so if nothing else, the Ling's always going to be a great buffer as well for any roaches. And Scarlet about to finish out there. Is going to see Astrea dropping a 4th immediately. He is not chilling out at all. He's just going to expand.
It's just totally fine. I do usually expect some type of move out with the Blink Stalkers, so the Blink coming out this fast, opposed to adding both technology structures at the same time. But nope, absolutely not going to do it. I mean, I think the Oracle, I'd caught sight of the... no, the Faster Evolution Chamber in the back of the natural. Creep spread's already insane, because, you know, it is Scarlet, and so perhaps figuring that Stalkers would be best left at home. I might be right about that, which means that Scarlet's scouting and reading and droning, I mean, maybe could have been a little bit harder, I guess, but she saw the Stalkers and immediately went back to droning, so... Still doing that with 38 Lings in the field, looking around in case anything tries to catch her by surprise. Now actually going to use them to tap the 4th base a little bit. Shield Battery's done, so definitely not going to find any success here.
No, nothing to be done, but Infestation Pit's finishing. Hydrogen's coming online. Astrea is going to start up that Storm upgrade. We had some magnificent storms from him in PvT yesterday. And starting that Storm upgrade right now gets me kind of excited for the PvZ Storms as well. Scarlet, of course, with that fast Infestation Pit straight into the Hive. And that does open the door towards kind of playing Ling Hydra into Lurker. That's Lurker den as well, so that's just going to confirm that that is exactly the route that Scarlet's thinking of here. And not really anything to stop you going there. I mean, even Vipers, because it's kind of straight as Storm and High Templars out, you don't really need to rush Vipers. They don't add a lot against the army comp of Astrea right now, so you can pretty much just spam up Hydras, get the Lurker upgrades going. We're even going to drop a Spire down from Scarlet. Okay.
I think she's really got a good read on the situation, which apparently is just going to be a super macro game, right? These Lings aren't just looking for opportunities to catch High Templars that are alone, or force merges, or kill a couple of probes. They're also scouting positioning of the army, size of the army, composition of the army. And while the army is getting to a point where it can actually start to, I think, confidently control a little bit of the map more, you know, it's not even over 150 yet. It's probably not going to push out. There's very little harassment elsewhere. There's yet another base coming down for Astrea. All I'm saying is I think Scarlett's kind of picking up on the fact that she's not going to be attacked anytime soon. She can afford a lot of upgrades. She can afford waiting to bank and then making, boom, instantly 9 lurkers, which are scouted, by the way. Probably not a surprise to Astrea, who's doing many of the similar things that I was talking about scouting-wise, just with an Oracle. Still very important. This Oracle keeps track now, I would say, of the lurkers. You know, keep track of what count is, yes, but absolutely where they are going to be coming in from. Because I think we are about 60 seconds away from actually having engagements. Maybe not a game-ending one, because they both are, again, going so late game, but I think we're going to see some action soon.
You'd hope so. It's definitely getting to that point. Everyone's had a lot of building up time. Max outs are happening. Scarlet, of course, is happy to keep teching. Her Great Aspire starts, and she's still got some lurker upgrades finishing as well. Adrenal glands plus 3 melee. I mean, you can list off anything in that production tab. You know, it's all going to be helping her army in the near future. Astrea finished up the fleet beacon. A couple of immortals on the way out as well, just to help buffer some bonus damage against the lurkers, and everything is typically great. And you did mention keeping track of where those lurkers are at. They are going to be chilling out on the bottom side. They're going to be pretty much pushing forwards on their own. There's a stasis ward there. We're actually going to fight that from afar, as we do just kind of poke our way through some of that Zag defense. Oracle will drop a revelation down. The Lings are just going to send it on this wall off. Well, that's one way to try and fight this, as plenty of Zealots show up though, and those Lings get turned away. Nothing to really be found here.
That is so many Zealots. That is so much army supply that is not really that useful, I would say, unless they get one heck of a concave against the lurkers. But obviously if they come in through one direction, not that helpful. I would be far more scared of them being used in a gigantic run by, which maybe is what Scarlet's thinking. Just a handful of banelings though would really help to deal with that. So yeah, I mean, Scarlet's wary of the Zealot run by, Astrea's wary of the Ling run by, but really wary of the now 15 lurkers on the field with both upgrades. No attack upgrades, no carapace upgrades to be fair, but they got the range, they got the speed burrow. And Astrea is just buying time currently. This is now a big bust. Those gateways are dead. Banelings rolling into, well, waddling into the third base, and Astrea, I mean, yeah, just out of position and caught with kind of his High Templar soccer army, decides to full send those Zealots.
Yeah, he's just going to send those across the map. Now Scarlet's caught with the lurkers having a retreat away as well, so that portion of Scarlet's army not looking great. And the defense of Astrea started to look a whole lot better as well, right? Because the realistic situation here is that it's only Lings from Scarlet on the other side of the map. Her supply is disappearing. She rebuilds 29 drones, but she's half the army supply. I feel like this was not quite the right plan. I mean, I get we just lost a bunch of drones, but we do actually need units to kind of defend with. I mean, I guess that's going to be the next wave of units, but man, that's painful. I mean, Spire coming up still. We've got ourselves. The Lurker's going to play cleanup finally. This just was so expensive for Scarlet, and she was the one to actually end up losing drones as well. I mean, just everything about this kind of sucked.
It kind of felt like, you know, who was going to blink first, actually. They're both poising with these really strong run-bys while kind of stalemating their quote-unquote main armies, and it looked like Astrea blinked, but handled it better, and that mass Zealot really did start to, well, dig into Scarlet's economy, yes, but then also make her make really tough decisions. So she does drone all the way back up to 93, which was scary with that army supply deficit that she had, but Astrea, you know, doesn't know that, doesn't know exactly how many lurkers were left alive, blah, 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 blah. Is only pushing now. And Scarlet does have a chance to hold, but lurkers being left a little bit alone. More lurkers are here, and if there's enough lurkers, they will cover each other. That is the hope anyway, but it is being busted. Scarlet wasn't all together right from the get-go. The Immortals lasting through, the Archons barely surviving, and Scarlet once again dips down in that supply. Astrea finds an opening at the very least to kill this hatchery. Those are some very injured units, however, so I don't think he'll continue on much farther, but Scarlet has lost her entire bank, certainly will not have that transition, and she will just tap out.
Probably not a terrible idea to just get out of that one. I do not think this was going to continue to go her way as Astrea ties up the series, and we are going to go 1-1. Interesting game again. This time Scarlett just so Ling heavy. Obviously wanted to get to that Ling Lurker, but when she got there, she never really hit any scary timings, right? Like the Lurkers did the most slow push onto this gold that never really got onto the gold as well. And I can only assume the idea was the Lings were going to drag units out of the way to let the Lurkers take position, but then that never really happened because it was just Lings on that top side. If that was Ling Bane, maybe that's way scarier because then actually you have a bit more. I know there was like 6 Banes that waddled into a mineral line, but like a few more Banes like hit the Zealots start showing up. Maybe then you've got to really pull units away and then Lurkers can make a play as well. But it just felt like those Lurkers, all the investment into them, never did anything at first. And from there, Astrea just decided to kind of get a couple pushes going. And you could see at that point that Scarlet, after losing all those drones, just couldn't really have enough Lurkers. Like you said, it was maybe okay if everything was together. But she didn't have any wiggle room for mistakes anymore, and that was a bit of a mistake with everything not being together for that final fight.
Yeah, 100%. She'd already spent most of her bank, and so she really needed to stabilize at the very least. The fact that she had already been broken of any type of map control is already a little concerning for someone who was on Lurkers, just because, you know, when they're offensive, they're far scarier. But yeah, particularly when she made another mistake. You know, she couldn't stabilize. That was really the knife in the gut there, so... She had like, I think she had like 15 Lurkers actually, and there was 9, and then there were 6 that were coming. Imagine if 15 Lurkers were there. I don't think you break in. You control the game in other ways as the Protoss player. You continue moving on to your Stargate, and she's still in a little bit of trouble as far as getting into the late game versus a very powerful Protoss. But yeah, she made a mistake with those Lurkers, and then just yeah, the whole idea that game again, that like who blinked first, who did the run by first. It is still kind of amazing that Astrea got so far ahead with it.
Yeah.
With, you know, I easily could have seen it gone the other way, but it did not. So we have a tied up series. Game 3 on Oceanborn. In the bottom right for Shopify Rebellion, she is Scarlet.
Taking on the red Protoss in the top left corner of the map, we have ourselves Astrea.
And the other thing is that even if her Lurkers had retreated more successfully and more in time to stop the Zealot run by, that also could have worked out really beautifully. You know, as you were saying, probably the plan was to try and get so much harassment into Astrea's bases that he had to send something else back to defend it. And then she either collapses on the gold base or she just, you know, does that damage and has no damage to herself done. But in another way, you know, if she had just been building up to the Ling run by and then perfected the timing of the Lurkers retreating, that also could have been, you know, beneficial for her. But it worked out so freaking well for the 20 Zealots to get in there and do maximum damage, and for the rest of the army to get proper positioning on the Lurkers. Usually a very difficult aspect of dealing with Lurkers, especially when they have that speed burrow. Astrea controlled it very well. A little more of a passive game than I was expecting, though, and I wonder if we're going to get some more hubbub in the first 10 minutes. Since Scarlet did not continue on with a win streak and a 2-0, I don't think she's going to try and Ling bust here, despite another pylon wall. This one is a little less surface area on the gateway this time.
Yeah, it is looking a little bit better for sure, as we do have just everything looking fairly normal. Obviously, hatchery blocked, forced onto the 3rd location, but intrigued to see if Astrea keeps going Void Ray first as well and kind of like using that to hide what he's doing. It's definitely been a couple of different ways of getting set up as Astrea. It's definitely not been like the plain and normal. Obviously, this pylon in the wall could still lead to like a Banelane bust, for example. That could still bust down the pylon and you just flood the links through from there as well. So that's still a weakness you don't usually see. So yeah, still kind of intriguing. That's the way that Astrea sets up. It does mean that the Stargate can go down deep in the Bane base, though, so it's a little bit tougher to scout and everything. The Overlord would have to dive deep to see that. As the Link speed is coming up from Scarlet, and she is cutting gas, so it's just Link speed for now.
Yep, typical stuff here. So let's see if the Void Ray opener. I guess the Void Ray opener also is a little more consistent in terms of dealing with any type of push. Obviously, Oracles depend on energy, especially if they're brand new. So it might be an additional safeguard alongside the opener. But yeah, most of the time we talk a lot more about how the Void Ray is very good at taking down Overlords, and can even sometimes pair up with a push, depending on like what the follow-up is. But Obviously, just generally good defensive unit. So tick tock, it is another Void Ray opener. I really feel like with all the Void Ray openers, though, we are going to see Astrea do something really cheesy behind the Void Ray one of these games. But even though I thought he'd be more aggressive with the Blink Stalkers last game, he ended up being totally non-aggressive. So far, that Void Ray isn't hiding anything super sneaky.
With you every step of the way, ZG, I think I expected more aggression. And with the Void Ray game after game, at some point, if you do just switch it up, it almost sets the stage to do it perfectly, because Scarlet may just assume, oh, Void Ray into just setting up defensively again. And if one of those times is actually like 20 Glaved Adept suddenly shading in, she never got a chance to find out. Well, that's the problem, of course. Scarlet just needs to be diligent with her Zerglings. If she can scout with those throughout, then she should be able to pick up on stuff like that still. So it's just very difficult to pick up on things like that. You've got to be counting units, seeing what's there, seeing what's missing. So it's not impossible, but definitely extremely difficult. It's the benefit of opening the Void Ray.
It's the same opener as last game so far. The third Nexus coming down, Void Ray into Oracle, and then the Twilight Council faster. So, you know, you basically can compare games 2 and 3 with game 1. Game 1, there was Twilight Council and Forge left down at the same time. Ended up being for charge. Wanted to do this kind of, I think, more pacing upset type of build order. Didn't work out, but this time around, especially because, well, I guess there's ways of pushing on any map with a small subject of stalkers, but I don't know, for some reason I kind of felt it like even better for Oceanborn. I guess I'm constantly anticipating a little stalker aggression, because so often we do see even a handful of stalkers just hold around that creep, kill a couple of creep timbers, kill a queen that's way too far forward, or at the very least scare the Zerg. And yeah, we just did not have that happen last game, and maybe it won't happen again here. Going up to 3 gateways in total right now. Oh, is that a complete wall in? I didn't even notice.
I kind of assumed there was a gap between Cybercore and Gate, but apparently not. Oh. That's strange.
Yeah, I think he saw like Ling somewhere and was like, oh no.
Yeah,
and
then... it doesn't want to depower it yet. Well, not depower it, but I mean, I guess unwall it, but then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Interesting. Scarlet still with the melee upgrades. Obviously, he wants to just play this Ling heavy style again as the Void shows up. Gonna nibble at the 4th, but Queens will punch that back. And Astrea just again, Blink, Forge. Looks as though we really are just going to sit here and, for now, just wait and chill. It's honestly not really the set of games I expect to see out of these. To kind of expected Scarlet to be a little bit more aggressive throughout, and that's obviously not happening at all. So, yeah, a little wild.
Or Astrea, especially because Trigger had the success with what he did.
Yeah.
Okay, we do have a little bit of a push out. I mean, you're totally correct. Like in some other game, to point out that a lot of the times these types of pushes are accompanied by far more Oracle help, and so there is a real staying power to even what is this, like 8 stalkers if 3 Oracles are helping to defend it, and it's not something that Astrea is doing, but you can usually still. Yeah, just with the blink micro ability, try and control the creep spread more, and that is what's happening now. The Oracle is being used to help, even if it's only 1, it is still helpful, which means it's not scouting, and that is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. Scarlet is changing things up here. She's not going into a super macro game. She's not going into Roaches and a Roach Hydra bust. No, it is Ling Spire. And that Spire is completely undetected. The fact that Astrea has only seen Ling so far isn't necessarily indicative of something mysterious happening, you know? It could still be Roaches being built up, or Hydras, or a Hive, for all he knows. And that is worrisome. Surprise mutas are never very fun.
I mean, as far as Astrea is concerned, it looks like the last game. Lots of Lings. Like, okay, well, I played against this last time. Not really an immediate cause for concern or anything. But obviously we know that the mutas are in fact on the way, and they are very much so surprise mutas. 13 of them coming through right now. Now, Storm's on the way up. We do have Blink Stalkers, so they are meant to be, very useful in this as well. Now, the Lings here going to grab another probe and just still poking around on that upper left-hand side. Oracle moving toward the main base, and I think might have just spotted one muta there if we were paying attention.
Yeah, if he was paying attention, which I actually don't think that he was. I saw static defense go down, but it's all at the 4th base, the more anticipated static defense, I was more so seeing cannons and shield batteries in the mana natural. Now they're coming down. Stalkers are in position, but there is obviously a delay of that. and Lings actually jumped on top of the side defense that I was talking about. Before it was done, Kill's the one that actually finished, and now gonna jump on top of Probes, Stalkers, High Templars. Not the start, because this actually opens up a snowball opportunity. Scarlet decides that going after the main army was possible. One warp in actually stops her, but maybe not for very long. The snowball has kind of begun here for the Muta Ling player. Astrea forced to bring the rest of his Stalkers, but still has the old runaround game to worry about. So the fact that you already lost 19 probes, all his high defense on your 4th base, and a decent amount of Stalkers, and you still have to play the runaround game, doesn't feel very good.
Completely opens the door for Scarlet to be very, very successful from here on out. Yeah, we got Phoenix now building second Stargate Fleet Beacon, and take a while for those numbers to rise up, so Scarlet definitely has a time window here. She finds a few more probes transferring. Anything really missing would be, again, maybe I guess enough Lings to actually really take this fight, but apparently this is just enough anyways. I was worried that the Lings would kind of die off a bit too soon, but we get rid of the Archon as well as a bunch of Stalkers, and again, the more units you get rid of, the more you keep the door open for future attacks and future reinforcements into this, so Scarlet continue to look good, has been eating another Stasis Ward, she's eaten a few of those so far, because now we're just going to get and finish off this battery, a bunch more probes go down. Astrea has maintained a decent work count, 70-ish is impressive considering the numbers he's losing, but again, it's just the unit count now is obviously just continuing to go down. It's too many mutas. You mentioned the snowball, this is now an avalanche.
It is helped out by some really well-timed upgrades too. The last Ling Muta pounce on the Protoss army happened as those Lings gathered a +2 attack, which is very unfortunate. Now the +1 flyer is done for the Mutas as well, all before +1 armor is done for Astrea, which would have helped certainly against all the units I just described, with the Glaive Worm bounce as well. It's way too over. It's been a little while, it feels like, since we've seen surprise mutas really snowball so hard so quickly, but it is always possible, even at this really high level. You kind of just have to give this one up. Go up, Muta's got me, it's so cool, it's so fun, and then move on to game 4.
Definitely an adjustment from Scarlet that kind of takes advantage of the fact that there is limited scouting from Astrea, right? You've got to keep the one Oracle back a lot to deal with the, amount of Lings and so on that are being brought into play. So I think this is a smart kind of set of surprise mutas. And Scarlet does go up into the advantage 2-1 in her favor right now, and she looks to make a bid for the grand finals and also that slot in the winners stage of Dallas, offline finals for this season of the ESL SC2 Masters. Can she close it out, or will Astrea bounce back? I'm genuinely impressed with how good Scarlet is looking. I've always got this thing when Scarlet's about to play. It's like, you never quite know how much Scarlet has played. You never quite know what sort of Scarlet's going to show up. And, right now, for this season, I probably really wasn't even thinking about Scarlet much at all. I thought she was, playing because she's still very good at StarCraft. But it's clear she's putting a lot of time into StarCraft. And that was very unexpected for me. Because she has shown up, and it's not just like clean play, it's like there's a lot of just very good build choices and strategic choices going on. Like she's really been an all-rounder, and it's not like she's just like scraping through series. Like she's been very dominant in a lot of the series that she's played as well, until she lost like 3 maps in a row to Trigger last night. She was on a 13-map winning streak. It's good to see Scarlet bidding for the grand finals and looking so good while doing so. I think Scarlet's always going to have a chance in the region, but yeah, the way that she's playing is, I think, just the standout for me.
Agreed. Yeah. Definitely, if she continues playing at this level, then, like I said, I favor her for even the championship. But I think we have seen flashes of this type of Scarlet. They were when she was practicing less. Either she was busy doing something else, or she was traveling, or, years ago, actually, she kind of even had like a period where she didn't really do anything at all. She wasn't really interested. I'm talking even around Legacy of the Void arriving, but she would have flashes of that. Well, she could be the best in the world. She would go up 2-0. She would look really dominant, and then something would happen in that game 3, and she would kind of lose all her confidence. I don't think it's confidence, but she would just basically lose all her momentum. I feel like we've seen that so often in the NA regionals. We saw it when she was playing versus Neeb, which was a historic matchup that had a lot of layers of the mental game as well. Sure, but we've seen it against Trigger, we've seen it against Astrea. So you always are on guard, I guess. You're always kind of on the edge of your seat as a Scarlet fan, wondering if it's going to turn around all of a sudden. And Astrea has certainly been there to turn it around, but Astrea just got bopped, and as I said, maybe it's a question of being able to just let that one slide right off, right? Mutas do be happening sometimes. And Astrea still has that really solid macro game to think back to as how likely his chances are to win in a more even, well-scouted game here to bring it back to potentially a Game 5. We are on Astrea's last life onto Ghost River. In the top left, currently teamless, he is Astrea.
Up against the Blue Zerg, top right from the Shopify Rebellion, a map away from Grand Finals, Scarlet.
I do think if Scarlet wins here, then she'll have a very, very good chance of getting the successful rematch against Trigger. Considering how she started versus Trigger in their series, and yeah, she let it go, but then she gets a second chance. It does kind of feel like rematches across the last week have been going favorably for the loser of the first round. Yeah, I'd feel really, really good for Scarlet. Astrea, if he brings it back, obviously, like him and Trigger have had some really, really cool best ofs and even finals beforehand. Now, either way, Trigger has a dangerous road ahead. But now we're on to what could be the final map in Astrea. Maybe finally time to bring out that real surprise cheese, all in, whatever, off the Void Ray opener.
I'm with you on Scarlet looking good going into like the rematch as well, especially if overnight she just looks at the kind of couple of Blink all-in games from Trigger and says, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to do if he does that again, because a lot of that comeback from Trigger was on the back of those two builds that were very similar. So if she can figure that out, you know, across the course of a 6-game grand final, I don't know if Trigger has enough ways to then start taking down Scarlet, because she looked very good in the other portions of the game. She lost one game to Adepts as well, right? And I feel like that happens in PvZ. To me, that's acceptable, so yeah. Anyways, settle in to this game 4. Feelings coming about. Ghost River, definitely a bit of a weirder, interesting map. It's a little bit more compact, and it's a little bit smaller, but it also is difficult to kind of push in end games on, so kind of got some weirdness to it. Of course, right now, we've already got Lings across the map early, and the probes are here to help deflect.
So Astrea saw that it was a gasless opener from his opponents, but as soon as seeing, you know, the surplus of Lings, not the typical 4 or hell even 2 sometimes, does grab the Zealot, and you know, that is smart. You know, if you're kind of foolish, you might think, well, it's clearly not an all-in, so why would I build this extra unit? But you can see how much trouble these Lings, these slow Lings, are giving Astrea. I think 1 probe went down. Yes, it did. 2 more are so close to falling. Looks like they will not fall here today. Some good micro there from Astrea, who comes in with the Adept as well. Zealot might feel a little useless now. Maybe it'll just guard the wall forever and ever and ever, which, by the way, was on a pylon wall this time. So I do think Astrea was keeping in mind the length of the map, the history of Scarlet being in an advantageous position. I feel like she is absolutely known as a player who will all-in you if she's on a roll, and has taken that into account, is not going to take too many risks in the early game, at the very least. We do have a sentry now on the way. Some proper scouting certainly is going to happen with this little bit of aggression. Zealot Adepts checking around for that third base, actually, which is not there. And then the sentry, I guess, will hold things up as he grips the third base. What is Scarlet doing?
2 base. I guess she's gonna... I want to say she's gonna drop a lair, obviously. I mean, at this point you're mining gas, what else could you really be doing? So you drop a lair into... That part I don't know. Maybe something very aggressive, like Nidus could be potential?
I was thinking, no, that was a ZBT that I'm thinking of. Yeah, Nidus could be a potential, but it, you know, it becomes increasingly more obvious that something is amiss the longer this third hatch is scouted as not being down, so then you really gotta worry about it. So the map that I was thinking of, the game that I was thinking of was her versus Future, in which she was caught on 2 bases, forced by Future, but same map, same positions, and like a weirdly similar late third hatch. But it's just going to come down. I mean, first she had to make those extra Lings, then she had to make some other Lings to make sure the Zealot Adept didn't do any damage, and it seems like with everything, she just couldn't get that third hatch up very fast. It finally got to the gas. Didn't actually end up doing anything with the first 100. And now the Hallucinated Phoenix is going to get all the scouting that a Stargate opener might have gotten instead, but obviously it's a Twilight Council opener, which is something that Scarlet should be picking up on. Obviously that was a fake Phoenix. So if it's not Stargate, what is it? Most likely a Twilight Council. Little bit of a concern for a Robo. But you'll also start seeing Stalkers warp in and pick up on that.
Now the blink is halfway done. The Zealot just going to swipe the third a bit. She's got so much gas stacked up from Scarlet, but she's just droning. It's just we're just having weird openers. Like, no one wants to open normally. No one wants to like let the game make sense as it typically would for the first little bit. And, weird series so far, but without going like completely out, away from the realm of like what's normal. It's just getting to the normal is being done in a different manner to usual.
Yeah, the journey is different than the destination. Although the destination also might be a little different for Astrea. He's bringing in double Forge. So, I was thinking about a mass gateway style when he went charge first into Blink, that kind of really late delayed gas game that was very odd. Didn't end up happening just because he died. Immortals came down first, and it was kind of weird. But this could be the game. This could be the actual intended from the start. Gets to finally have a clean game of it too, but mass gateway, which was obviously a very popular style for a while. Hero definitely, made it popular, and then everyone else copied it. Kind of died down, kind of comes back, kind of dies down, kind of comes back. We're back to it. Double Forge, relatively low gas. Lots of stalkers, and eventually that charge as well. It looks like Astrea, seeing the Ravagers already built, is quite wary of being attacked. Don't necessarily blame him, but that might have actually been either a fake attack from Scarlet or an overreaction to what she thought might be offensive. I don't know which one, but she's got an infestation pit now, so not attacking. Well, then also a decent amount of lings too. Is she gonna follow this up with Swarm Hosts?
That's a great question. Swarm Host would be a wild choice right now. I guess it's not too late to head into Swarm Hosts as the Stalkers come through, knocking down a creep team or two as we go with the Observer. I'm going to take down multiple of these creep teamers. Drone going down as well. Going to push up this ramp, and creep will continue to fall. A few Stalkers poking about. These Stalkers are going to get themselves a little bit caught. The Lings do get here. Corrosive Valves will open the door. We blink and recall. We're going to lose multiple Stalkers. Scarlet gets a very good fight there. Cleans up, and plus one missiles and roach speed about to be done. And there it is. The Swarm Hosts are coming, ZG. What a call.
The call put me in the Hall of Fame, put me up with her, the Apollo on the fort. No, I'm just kidding. It just it didn't seem like anything else would make much sense, I guess. Like, either it was that or she is clearly thrown off, right? She's like making army and then making tech and then making army and then like, it would have been weird. And there is definitely some concern necessary for Astrea's aggression. You saw you could, abuse some of the positioning and force fields and stuff. So you do have to respect that, of course, but it seemed like an awful lot to be waiting for and building up to. And then she just started to bank and bank and bank. So yep, Swarm Hosts are the composition. Does Astrea know about that? He doesn't see the visitation pit. Yeah, he doesn't. He has no idea.
So a little bit blind at the moment. A lot of Zealots on the map that currently do not have charge, by the way, which means they're kind of slow moving for the foreseeable future. You're going to see a little swing around the bottom left side. Lings and roaches are going to make their way across and up. So already a potential attack. We're actually going to catch these Zealots, which honestly is not a bad time to fight for Scarlet because she can get the roaches on top of them while they're slow. That's very kiteable. Obviously, if the Lings run in, charge doesn't, the lack of charge doesn't matter anymore. The Swarm Hosts during this are going to set up, and they're going to come straight into the natural. This is going to be a very deadly first wave of Swarm Host Locust. It's very rare you see the first wave being super successful. Astrea pulls away immediately, but this is going to be a dead Nexus, potentially a dead Robo. I mean, there's just so much damage output.
I love when Swarm Hosts aren't all focusing, or Locusts. You're like, it's not that bad.
And then they all target fire.
Oh, well, hey, this actually is a little bit of a mistake here from Scarlet. I mean, I think it doesn't really... It's hard to call it a mistake. She's already done so much damage, right? But she was caught a little overwhelmed. Too much Protoss army was still available. After all, the Locust after a Nexus, not army. So a Roach Ravager army does get completely enveloped. It ends up being, I think, a good enough trade that obviously the Remax will cover Scarlet on the backside. We'll also have that the Locust wave actually just used. So I was going to say it could be used offensively. Still being used offensively. It's going to kill another Nexus, but this time the Swarm Hosts will take the brunt of the damage, and things are still a little screwy. I don't think they're screwy enough. Astrea is climbing up a very big mountain right now.
He's going to kill, every single one of the original Swarm Hosts, though. That is not the value you're meant to get from Swarm Hosts. They're meant to
Hold
fire
on.
like 100 more times because you play a low drone count with this style as well. Scarlet is
Yeah.
extremely fortunate to have taken down 2 Nexus so far, because without that level of damage, these Swarm Hosts would have been completely like just not good enough. Like, so often the first 2 waves of Locusts just don't get much done. If you lose all your Swarm Hosts in that situation, that's terrible. As it stands right now, it's still playable, but it's definitely big for Astrea, because now Scarlet spends a lot of her money rebuilding hosts, and that's not what you really want to do. You want to be thinking about the future and rebuilding and tacking up for the next step of your game, and that's obviously now not happening. So Astrea will stand in this with the Nexus coming back online. Chances are there for him.
I thought 7 swarm hosts were going to be able to escape. Scarlet's army would have distracted, Astrea would have needed all of his army to defend, or would have just gotten distracted and, 1-8 or whatever. But no, every last Swarm Host went down. That's 14 Swarm Hosts killed. 1 reinforcing one also got sniped at some point. You're right, that is a huge chunk of change that was all supposed to be in Scarlet's bank for emergency remaxes, for tech decision-making, for expansion processing. That actually did, I think, make up for 2 Nexus killed, because it also has severely stopped any momentum that Scarlet was building up to. And Astrea is continuing to take these fights in a pretty decent manner. Haven't really talked about the upgrades, because obviously the focus has been on the Locust, but 2-2's done. 3-3's almost, it's over halfway done for Astrea. His Stalkers and his Zealots are pretty freaking mean. And this Nexus is going to go down. Okay, that is a bit of a bummer, but nonetheless, you always got to keep in mind with these Swarm Host games, the supplies are really quite a big lie. And while Scarlet is getting back into the proper position as her player wants to be in, Swarm Host buying time, buying damage, buying a bank, she still isn't where she was supposed to be. And Astrea is back up to at least 3 bases, mining pretty well, able to harass, able to take main army fights, and able to even start building in some of that splash. 3 disruptors will be out very soon, and back up to 4 bases we go for the Protoss.
And 3-3 upgrades as well, right, from Astrea, so that's going to be kind of a cool factor. These Roaches just going to run in over here, and I don't know what Astrea has to deal with. A bunch of Zealots warp in. They will try and buy time. Uh-oh, Banelings are here as well. Scarlet backed away. I actually think she could have just sent it with those Banes rolling to Zealots. Now this army's coming back from Astrea, trying to deal with this Roach force. Scarlet, she does leave before the Disruptor's able to close the distance. Do not mind these few Banes helping against the Zealots as well. Just softening up the numbers, but Astrea's numbers are indeed increasing, and until the Swarm Hosts are available again, this is a little concerning. Scarlet is still trying to get away with these Roaches. Looks like the Swarm Hosts are setting up to go into the natural one more time. There's just a few Locusts currently going in, and even if you just find a few probes, could be nice, as you're going to see Scarlet's reinforcements starting to show up on this position. Astrea does drop the first Disruptor shot, and the second one actually does connect as Scarlet stopped moving, but there's a lot of lings. The Zealots, though, are going to catch the Swarm Host and pushes back over there. And now Disruptors are still being chased as Scarlet comes through the bottom side, but her supply has dropped a lot. She's going to have to do a lot of rebuilding, and that is expensive. Again, she's kind of in this because she's doing so much economic damage to Astrea.
Yeah, otherwise a lot of the actual battles and circumstances outside of the Nexus kills have not been going very well for her. They've actually been kind of touch and go for both players, right? At times maybe Astrea is getting a little overzealous, at times Scarlet is, at times thinking that she'll be able to ultimately maybe distract her opponent well enough, and then realizing, oh, I can't. Astrea is very good about keeping Zealots in different locations and chasing after my Swarm Hosts. And with that, I think one really great addition to this game with how it's going and how it's getting really weird would be Burrow. I mean, if she could have gotten Burrow immediately, the Swarm Host from the get-go would have lived. But now, still wouldn't be a bad addition, considering that she does still have a bank. She showed some really fun Burrow play in her other series as well. I would personally like to see it, but she's not getting it so far. Now going for it. Baneling roll by, which Astrea picks up on, and is going to save almost all of the probes. Ultimately, not the best use of... Wait, no! Still maybe not the best use of that many Banelings.
Honestly, this one, like, oh, the Banelings sucked. Oh, the Banelings are going to do okay. Wow, the Baneling! Oh, damn, they wrecked past. They still found something extra. Locust cancel up the natural expansion once again. It's a lot of Zealots, but Scarlet deals with this. This is a big deal. Not letting these Zealots get a bunch of economic damage. The scare now is... Oh, no. How many times are we going to lose our Swarm Hosts?
Yeah, she's been really cavalier with them, Like I said, like maybe she's used to playing worse Protoss players who aren't as active in a wild game like this. Because I certainly wouldn't blame a Protoss player for being less active, for their gut instinct to be just hold down the fort back at home. But because Astrea does have army on the map, it means, yes, he's taking more damage, I guess, back at home, but then he's also dealing damage, so it's becoming a screwy game. And now Astrea even has a really powerful Protoss army because of that 3-3. It's not maxed out. It's, you know, not 8 Archons, it's 4, but it's got 3-3, and Scarlet is scrambling from multiple different directions with very, very poor units to try and tackle this, and now she's working against her own choke.
Yeah, Astrea is going to push himself into a great position here. I think you just can't rebuild your Swarm Host count 2-3 times in a game and end up in a good spot, even with, you know, she was in this before so long because she did so much damage, but Astrea has slowly built up those tech units. Those have never been denied. And as long as, I mean, we're rebuilding Swarm Hosts again, which just feels like disaster waiting to happen as Astrea sits in this main base, Infestation Pit, Bane Nest, all going down. I mean, arguably you're a little bit stuck in the main base perhaps, so maybe that's something to note. But yeah, this does those Scarlets in a ton of, I mean, I say a ton of trouble. She's of an army supply, but again, it's so deceiving when it's roaches against all of these tech units. I mean, again, Swarm Host popping out, not sure how much the Swarm Host will really be able to do as she's rebuilding them fresh and anew again. The Hive obviously in trouble as well, and yeah, it looks as though she's getting cleaned up, trying to run by on the other side of the map. Astrea is going to wrestle this game into his favor as he just constantly caught the Swarm Host. I mean, that is what won him this game, straight up and simple, because he killed that Swarm Host count the first time completely, the second time over, a pretty big chunk of them died as well. I mean, and the fact Scarlet chose to rebuild them, the first time I can kind of understand, the second time I was like, what? Because maybe then if she just spams units, she could have had a timing window, but by now, yeah, it's way too late to do anything against those tech units.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think first time you understand, second time question mark. This last time, it is once again understandable, but it's, you know, a tough decision in a really bad circumstance. But I do think the Swarm Hosts are correct here, just because you're clearly going into an even worse economy game. It's not even low economy, it's just worse for you. Swarm Hosts are the only thing that's going to help that. But imagine, I do believe the first time the Swarm Hosts were called out, there was no observer. So imagine Burrow, okay? Or Niduswarm.
Yeah.
Then a Niduswarm would have definitely been the definitely get out of jail free card. But yeah, she never invested into it, which I think was possible post the first Swarm Host death. And might be regretting that a little bit, as I think it is clear that she is losing this game unless she can get the Swarm Host Locust to surround the Protoss army and add in those corrosive vials. I don't see her beating the 3-3 growing Protoss army. 3-3-1 actually. So that's kind of insane upgrade. It's only 2-1 for Scarlet here. Swarm Hosts have got to do much better than they've done for the last 17 minutes.
Yeah, Swarm Hosts have to kind of like dig deep and just do things they shouldn't really be able to do, I think is the realistic way to look at it. They're losing all the creep on this top side. This will allow Scarlet to kind of focus kind of bottom right, which is kind of an intriguing situation for this map. Locust having to be used defensively is never good, right? Because you just back away. You do not fight free units if you do not have to. And if the free units are on defense, now we're going to knight us, okay.
All right, well, better late than never. Apparently, she still is in this game, kind of. I mean, she had a bank, just that is the way with Swarm Host, right? You're basically going to always have at least a mineral bank so you can replace drones and hatcheries. But it is deceiving, you know, just because she's almost max again does not mean that she's actually in a good position.
No, this is a maxed army that I've got zero faith in being able to fight this force of her opponent, as Disruptors are going to get a lot of kind of freebies, essentially. So we do kill a Disruptor in return, but you need to do so much here, Scarlet. A few more Locusts. I mean, I kind of like that we split the Locusts into 2 waves so that she has an extended kind of way to kind of engage this. Those Locusts are going to push this all the way back. Of course, the Rock's knocked down from Scarlet early, so that is a position Astrea can still run down that ramp in. As the Locusts go, you could have had maybe a Disruptor.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Oh, Scarlet's hoping that was a breather. Actually made 12 more drones during this, and now it's actually her turn to be surrounded. All the Swarm Hosts without the Locust to help out. Astrea realizes it and is absolutely freaking gonna win this. Super one-sided. Astrea ties up the series 2-2. Don't really want to call that a throw necessarily from Scarlet, but I think that was a fumble. That wasn't the best way to use Swarm Hosts that we've ever seen.
It's like the Swarm Hosts did so well on their first and second waves. They were just like, yeah, we've never done this much damage. Like, usually I see the first wave is like the most injured because the surprise wave, but this was like the dream start. And then usually if Swarm Host gets caught, it's like, oh no, I lost a couple of Swarm Hosts. This was like, you lost every single Swarm Host. And then, you know, we rebuilt them. And then it happened in this kind of the same way, you know? We got them trapped in the top corner. Astrea was constantly fishing for that to happen. He had Zealots kind of positioned to catch those swarmers in that position a couple times, and then he finally catches them again, and Scarlet just did not have a good answer to the fact that Astrea actually went swarm host hunting, quite frankly. Scarlet's swarm host positioning and setup on the map with them was really what lost her what was, again, the dream start off of swarm host, getting base kills like that. I mean, you saw how long the game went on. Like, you're meant to lose games if you lose swarm hosts. The game went on for that long because they were that good as, initially. A frustrating loss as we'll get going on to Game 5. Amphion as well for an interesting map to round out this series.
Yeah, I do love it, though. Like, you could just say that was better than and worse than you'd expect from Swarm hosts. First one, then the other. It's like very rarely do Swarm hosts get such a great start. 2 Nexus, boom, popped. But also 16 Swarm hosts, boom, like cut down as after their very first wave. Both things are extremely unlikely to happen, much less in a single game. So it's just NA, I feel like it's just the way it goes. Not because NA is a worse region, which I feel like is often what people will joke about. No, because these players are so familiar with each other, and they have been, I guess, born and bred in a kind of a bit more wackadoodle region, that it just encourages games like that, even if they're both playing at their absolute tip-top level. And so 9 out of 10 of their other competitions are flawless. There's like 3 zeros across the board. They meet each other, and it's like 2 hurricanes meeting each other. It's just like, what the hell is going to happen? I don't know. They don't know.
This matchup really never fails to deliver, does it? It's almost always one of the very exciting series in the NA region. This is living up to as well. We're going to get to Game 5. It's really not been very many normal games or normal ways of getting to normal games. And now Amphion. I feel like the map itself just lends itself to a little bit of mayhem here for the final map. And of course, I feel like Trigger's sitting here watching this. He's probably like, man, I love it. They're going to wear each other out a little bit. Let me go in as fresh as possible against someone 1 down. So he's obviously waiting in the grand final as we're just giving the players a moment here to be ready. But yeah, Trigger in the grand final, waiting for the winner of this series to come through and to meet him there.
I assume Astrea is in America, right?
Yeah, I think they're both in
Yeah.
NA.
He's currently getting coffee. It's like 1 p.m.
Nice.
That's fine. Whatever.
He's West Coast though. It's like 10:30 for him.
Oh, you're right. I don't know why I thought he was East Coast.
Yeah.
Crazy talk.
Oh, look at the American, not knowing the American time zones. Unbelievable.
Mate, I don't even know my time zone.
Yeah, I remember when he forgot to show up for cast CG. I won't lie, I was a little nervous this morning. I was like, oh my goodness, is EG gonna make it? It's like an 11 a.m. start for her. Like, ooh,
Look,
scary.
Okay. No, it's an 8 a.m. start for me.
It's 8
excuse
a.m.
you.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, excuse you. No, but it's because Team Liquid doesn't just auto-adjust. Okay, this is literally the problem. Why I was late last year. I figure that most websites nowadays can like automatically adjust the time zone that your computer or IP or whatever is in, whatever how they do it. Team Liquid. You gotta go into your settings and change it.
All right, we'll blame Team Liquid. Clem just won EU, but we'll blame Team Liquid anyways. They sabotaged the first series of an Asia region stream a year ago.
Yeah. All right, final game, guys. Amphion is going to be the final battleground. And both players are ready, all caffeinated up or whatever they need to be. And bottom left, we do have the Shopify Rebellion player, Scarlet.
Taking on our teamless Protoss in the top left-hand side, it is Astrea. In an extremely important match, because again, this is not just an advance into the grand finals, more prize money right here and now. It's winner stage of Dallas on the line, and that is such an easier road to having a good result in Dallas than going through that terrifying open bracket.
Wow. Really? All right, I was going to talk about, I guess again, I have time to fit it in, but wow, we got a cheese on the way, guys. Both players are in America. Oh, it's going to be... No! Oh my gosh, okay. Both players are in America. It might be easy for them to participate in the open bracket of Dallas, but the format really punishes open bracket players. So yes, a lot of importance on getting that top 2. But now we can absolutely 100% focus on this. The triple gates wall-off coming through. The Overlord checks back in on potential cannon rush places. It just stands in the natural. But that is not what that Overlord needs to be scouting. I mean, the alternative, I guess, it could have just gone directly north. That also wouldn't have scouted this. And Astrea saves the best for last. Not hiding behind a Void Ray, just getting it done within the first 2 minutes.
Not messing around, is he? Well, the gates are coming up. Scarlet is completely clueless to what is happening. And this is going to be a rough time for her as the Zealot numbers are going to increase quickly. There's no good way to deny the gateways because it's a wall off. I mean, if nothing else, yeah, you're walled into your 2 bases as well. I know that's a long-term problem, but yeah, now the Overlord is going to see this. The gateways are here, and Scarlet is going to have to come up with a solution. As I think the solution is a Roach Roaring ASAP. There's a second gas coming down. I don't think there's anything else you can really do right now.
Oh, it is so difficult. I wish we had player cams, though, for her reaction. But now that we're here, we have seen Zerg players successfully defend a totally unscouted and unprepared defense against the 4 gates that is often, I guess, around a pylon. There's 3 gate. So it is possible that she holds, but this is the best possible circumstance for Astrea to do game-ending damage with this.
I feel like that was a good surround on that first Zealot there, so that gives you a bit of a better chance. Now going to get onto the next Zealot too, so yeah, the mineral wall kind of blocks you a little bit. The next Zealots were on the low ground. Blings will start to come down here. Scarlet still has gas, has not yet spent it, and a few more drones actually popping out for her. She's going to start the Roach Roar and give up the natural probably is the case here. I don't think you do much. Maybe you try and get some freebie shots on the Zealots, but yeah, I don't think you actually try and fight this. And you just now go into Roaches? Well, don't love it still, obviously, but it's something.
Yeah, I guess the Roach Roar is kind of a difficult thing to place down, actually. Like, you're just on such a low economy that you actually have to be kind of careful about how she places it down. I mean, the Spine Crawler first is obviously understandable, but Roach was coming out perhaps still very well timed against the non-Zealot units, which the Lings are going to have even more difficulty with, you know? They don't have speed. So Roach is absolutely necessary, but now we're in that weird 1 base versus 1 base scenario. Assuming that Scarlet just somehow like holds on to everything she has here, it's still really weird for her. Technically, this is still favoring the Protoss, especially as Astrea gets an expand.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to take a long time for Scarlet because she has to knock down these units, then get to the low ground and knock down the gateways so that she can break out onto the map. This is good control, pulling the drones back, letting the Spine and the Queen take a big part of this. The Lings going down is pretty fine. We lose a couple of drones. That's probably as good as that could have gone. A couple of Ravages come up, and makes it very difficult as well for the Stalkers that are popping out. We're even going to bring that Spine to the low ground too. So Scarlet is slowly but surely getting something of an answer for this right now.
I said it in her games on Friday. I'll say it again for a ZVP. She is more practiced than most in these types of games because she often is the one that forces these weird games. You know, she's got 3-gated, so it's not her fault this time, but she does proxy hatches and stuff. So I have some faith in her ability to read through the scenario, but it is just, it does seem impossible. You know, if Astrea loses his production, which obviously is eventually going to happen, but then also loses his army somehow, well then clearly that's bad news for Astrea. But assuming that he makes sure that he has some form of production, some form of army helping to defend his natural, Scarlet can't really bust. She wouldn't have enough reinforcements. It'd be too slow. Like, you don't have much production as a Zerg on 1 base, blah, blah, blah. And then you try and expand, take advantage of the time where Astrea doesn't have an army to fight an all-in, I guess. True, yeah. How much can you actually squeeze in before Astrea does have an army ready to kill you? That is the question here. Scarlet tries to hold on to some, I would say even light pressure, but you can see how dangerous this can be. Good focus fire attempts from both players. It's
only 4 Stalkers. She was very fortunate to get the gateway. I think she obviously targeted the pile when she saw the gateways. Was trying to morph to warp gate. She's like, okay, I got to stop these warp-ins. She did. That was essential. We now need a couple more units just to stop these Stalkers from really succeeding against this hatchery. You cannot afford to lose your hatchery again here. This hatchery coming online is meant to be one of the things that kind of resets things in your favor a little bit. These Roaches need to get in front. They need to be the ones taking the damage. We eat a transfusion, so that's nice, but we will lose 1 Ravager. Couple of gasps as, yeah, it's close, it's tense. The micro is important. The hatchery does live, and the Spine's in front. That should be good enough now, but of course, Blink is on the way, and does Scarlet ever have enough to realistically hold off a kind of a big aggressive Blink attack, which is kind of naturally coming now?
Yeah, she doesn't know that for a fact. Yeah, her Overlord hasn't gotten to the fronts. Is obviously too scared to do so. Might be figuring it out. The only thing I can say is that maybe this map does have some nice defensive capabilities. If you were to take the triangle, if she mines out the map and takes the triangle, then Astrea doesn't mine out his side. Then Astrea is only pushing through this ramp. Okay, well, that's not... Well, never mind. That's not what she's doing. All right, so now, unfortunately, with Scarlet's third base being where it is, it actually is pretty blinkable. You know, you can get a concave, you can have an escape path to, like, the top right. I am scared. I am concerned. Scarlet gonna try and do everything that Zerg needs to do, fit in all the technology and all the economy that she missed out on, as well as, frankly, actually get production. I mean, she's been roach-based for a while, but eventually she will want the help of Lings, and she's gonna need larva for that.
Stalkers, very nearly get an Overlord, and then with the blink we will be able to kill it as we set up around this left-hand side, so that's going to be the plan from Astrea. Work over here, Prism on the way, and just set up. Obviously, you can even take this base if you want it, as all the extra gates are coming online, but these Stalkers are 100% going to be pressuring, and Scarlet has to figure that part of this out right now as we go down the left. A couple of Crypt Tumors will begin to drop, so she's going to lose her control on this left-hand side, and Astrea, let's see what sort of a fight he's able to pick. Scarlet on equal work account, and is now back into Roaches, and also that Infestation Pit coming through. I wonder if she's going to try and sneak one or two Infestors out of good Fungal. Locking down the Stalks from blinking could be huge.
Yeah, that might be the first thing she gets, and then maybe in a Swarm Host again, honestly, but we'll hold off on that. And I guess Scarlet was kind of damned if she does, damned if she doesn't. Either base would have been attacked, as Astrea did mine out his side of the map, and as you said, could just take the base there too. So that, no matter where she took that hatchery, it's a goner, it's dead. Scarlet's on the ropes, her last life in the tournament. If she misses out here, she will not get that seed into Dallas. She'll probably still attend, but it is a much tougher road. And once again, letting victory slip through her fingers. She was up in this series. She had a good chance with that Swarm Host game. And ended up kind of fumbling the ball there. And now, Astrea is looking to end the game with a 2-base Stalker attack that still has the macro. You know, there is still a third Nexus on the way. So, Scarlet has to do better than hold.
Yeah, she needs to. I mean, that's the problem, right? The Pro setup is just so good that all of this pressure is just pressure. It's not commitment. It's not all in. It is just getting some light damage done and getting going from there. We are going to see a Nidus coming up. It's going to be able to get the Swarm Host across and hit the natural a little bit, but I mean, these Stalkers are pushing through and they are looking very good. We have a few of them hurt, but they blink back. Reinforcements are here. We really need the Swarm Host to put in work on the other side. They need to do some serious damage. Scarlet is barely hanging on. She needs something to help her out, and I just don't see what it's going to be. I'm not even sure if the Swarm Host doing damage on the natural is going to matter, because you're probably just going to get overrun over on this natural. I don't think you can ever defend this base. So Stalker's now in the main as well. It looks as though this is done and dusted.
Yeah, not even really that much probe damage. You know, smart decisions after the fact, but she was already in such a bad situation. What a cheesy build from Astrea. Ending this series in an NA way. Way to go. It is going to be another PvP Grand Final.